Welcome into CHGO Bears After Dark, presented by ComEd. They're keeping the lights on for us here on CHGO Bears After Dark. Make sure you're hitting up ComEd.com/clean for all your energy needs. And here we are back and better than ever. Out of our Hard Knocks Tuesday night routines, we're back in our normal Monday night slot. It is officially a Victory Monday. It's how I got the Victory Monday threads on Woot. Feeling good. We got lucky. There's a lot of luck involved in that, but the defense created their own luck in a lot of ways with the pressure they had, and the special teams was just flat out special. And we talked a lot about that yesterday. Big day yesterday for CHGO Bears and CHGO Sports overall, welcoming Alex Brown and Lance Briggs to our team. So we had a lot of fun stuff going on all day long, from the tailgate to the game, the miracle win, the post-game show, and then the debut of the Briggs and Brown show on Sunday night. And then Alex and Lance came back to the studio once again today to hang out with one Mark Carmen and Herb Howard. So if you haven't checked out any of those shows, I highly encourage that you do so, because it was a lot of fun content. Corey, hope you had some safe travels back after a busy day yesterday.
Yeah.
How we feeling now that the dust is settled on this Victory Monday?
Man, I'm feeling good because the Bears are 1-0, but there's a lot to improve on.
Right.
I think we could all say that. But anytime you don't play your best game and you get a win, that is huge. I think it's huge for the confidence of the team. It was definitely tough, because I think leading up to this game, I think everyone thought the offense would play a lot better, and they just didn't live up to the hype with all the weapons there. Caleb, I understand that it's a work in progress, but I think everyone thought the offense, and you including, probably thought the offense would be a lot more high-powered than what we saw on Sunday.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, I always get ahead of my skis, so we all knew that was going to happen. And what we saw from the offense as the preseason progressed, I assumed that they would be much better than the 95 yards passing total for Caleb Williams and the offense and all the weapons they have around him. I mean, at one point, DeAndre Swift only had 8 carries for 6 yards, so the run game wasn't doing well. They had no answers. And I think the thing that really stood out to me most was, while the defense didn't really show what they showed in the preseason, the defense just blitzed like crazy. Well, they didn't necessarily do that to the same extent. There was a little different looks going on, at least from my vantage point. But the offense, it did feel like they were running most of the stuff they were running in preseason. And it seemed like the Titans were certainly ready for that. So, back to the drawing board. You learn from a win. Nobody's going to be picking the Bears to beat the Texans this Sunday in a tough matchup on the road. And I kind of like that spot for them. If the Bears, in the rationalization of, my fan mind going on here, like if they had blown the doors off the Titans, but the Titans weren't a good football team, that might have given them a false sense of security going into a big game on the primetime stage. Now, you know how it is, Corey. After a game like that, and you're in the film room today and tomorrow, these guys are going to be on their toes all week, right?
Yeah, they are. I think they are getting an earful from the coaching staff. Like, honestly, it's one of those games, especially from the offensive line. Their coach is going ham on them. Like, the offensive line got their ass whooped. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no kind way to say it. Bragg, they got dominated. Yep. And I told you in the preseason the pregame rather, I was talking to Hogue and Carm, and I told him, I said, on the way driving to Chicago, I was like, I felt very confident, and then all of a sudden I'm like, wait. They got some dudes on the defensive line,
yep.
Simmons and company. They were getting after them. And I think Carm was talking about this. He had a lot of concerns about the offensive line. Did you have those same concerns before the season?
Yeah, I mean, when you first went to camp that first week, the offensive line was a mess. And the center position, they're rotating every day. Ryan Bates, Coleman Shelton, Ryan Bates, Coleman Shelton. Nate Davis isn't in there. So you're putting in some guys that, for Bears fans, you got Matt Pryor in there, even starting a preseason game early on, because Ryan Bates was injured at one point, and you're down to like your third string right guard. So you don't know what to think with your trust in what the offensive line can and can't do. and there was lots of false starts, and just the operation itself looked messy. And they started to clean it up as the preseason went on, and the offense started to play better, not just at camp, but in the preseason games. So you started to think that, hey, they were starting to catch up a little bit. Now it feels like it's all reset back to like that first week of training camp. And now Caleb Williams certainly now sees what the speed of the game, when the bullets are actually flying and you're actually hitting, and what that's all about. But so did the offensive line for the most part there. I'm not going to hit the panic button yet. I'm going to give them at least one more week. It cannot look as bad as it did this last Sunday. And if it does, I think there has to be some serious changes to consider, especially on that interior part of the offensive line. So it'll be interesting to see how this thing shakes out, because Ryan Bates outsnapped Nate Davis, and he was injured, I think, because he went on the bike, but that's been a problem going on for 2 years now. So how they decide to shake this thing out is certainly going to be interesting.
It is going to be interesting because I think Houston has a lot of weapons. You look at their team as a whole. Offensively, they have talented weapons. Defensively, I really worry about this matchup for the offensive line, because when you look at it, Will Anderson Jr., Danielle Hunter, they have a lot of guys that can beat you on the edge. So I'm a little bit worried about this game, especially Sunday Night Football.
The one thing I will say is, it was their strength versus our weakness last week, where our weakness is the interior offensive line, and their strength was the interior defensive line with Tavondre Sweat and Jeffrey Simmons.
Yep.
And not being dialed into exactly every rotational defensive lineman for the Texans, but knowing, because you've been talking about this for months, worrying about these defensive ends for the Texans, and Danielle Hunter coming over there, right? Will Anderson, one of the top picks last year.
Derek Barnett as well off the bench. Yeah.
But the tackles for the Bears yesterday, it's like I'm losing my mind on what day it is. But the tackles played well. Braxton Jones and Darnell Wright played very well. So
pass rush wise, not in the run game. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, hey, expound on that, because that's certainly, I mean, everybody's looking at the pass game, right? But the run game is certainly a big part of it.
Yeah, I just thought across the board, like from the tackles to even Tevin Jenkins, who I thought was our best offensive lineman as far as the run game. I mean, Simmons and company were swimming him. They were driving him back. It just was very uncharacteristic. I thought they would set the edge, especially on the edge, right? I thought Simmons and company inside would give them fits as far as the guards. But I thought Tevin Jenkins always been somebody to hold his own in there, especially against some talented guys. But I thought Braxton Jones and Wright did pretty good in the pass rush game, but I just didn't think they got push in the run game. And I think that's something they need to improve. And it's just so tough without the preseason the way it is to really – the running game takes a lot of effort, and it takes a lot of chemistry and building and just grinding it out. And sometimes in a game, like in that game, the way it was, it just things weren't clicking offensively, so they didn't really get a chance to really work on that run game, because sometimes early on, the first 2 quarters, it may not be there. But it's a war of attrition. You wear down the opposing defense, and all of a sudden you break that one run that gets things going. And I think they just didn't have a chance to do that offensively. So I'm hoping going forward they can just really focus on that run game. And what I'd like to see is a little bit more Mercedes Lewis, maybe some 2 tight end sets, him and Cole Kmet, and then being able to utilize Cole Kmet in the pass game. And we were talking about that afterwards. Cole Kmet is a guy that you paid a lot of money, that I think he's a talented tight end, right? Is he a burner like Travis Kelce? No, but I think he's more in line with a Kyle Rudolph, a guy that's a great inline blocker that can stretch the field, get in the seam, get some of those over the middle routes that is a quarterback's best friend. Because you look at all these quarterbacks that are very talented. What do they have? They have a great tight end. You look at Brock Purdy, right? A young quarterback that has had great success in this league. George Kittle, right? Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce. So I'm hoping they can get him going. I understand Gerald Everett is basically a glorified wide receiver at tight end. But Cole Kmet is a guy that you paid a lot of money for, that is talented, that put up 700 yards last year, right? And Justin Fields struggled a lot. But when Justin Fields needed a completion, who did he go to? Obviously DJ Moore, but who was the other guy? Cole Kmet. Yeah. And I think this is going to be Caleb Williams' best friend as well, right? We know what they have at wide receiver, but don't sleep on the importance of a great tight end, right? Cole Kmet uses his body well. He's able to get open. He's got really good hands, and especially in that red zone when stuff gets boggled up, You look at the Bears when they were in the red zone, when they had, sudden change, they were able to get the ball back. They couldn't capitalize. They couldn't get points in there. And I think Cole Kmet is a guy that gives them options, especially for Caleb Williams.
100%. The game plan I can pick nits for, and I want to give Shane Waldron some leeway. It's their first game, a lot of new weapons. He's trying to figure out how he wants to utilize this offense, but the personnel usage certainly didn't make much sense to me in a lot of different ways. They're rotating right guard right now with Bates and Nate Davis. Pick a guy. We did this. Yeah. We talked about this in the center with the center position in the summer. Rotating isn't helping anyone. Continuity is so important on the offensive line. Then you move to the tight end spot. Gerald Everett out snaps Cole Kmet. I don't agree with that necessarily. Maybe it was a matchup thing. Maybe it was just for the day. But Cole Kmet, to me, is somebody that's going to help disguise what you're doing more than Gerald Everett. If they're not both on the field at the same time and it's just one or the other, Cole Kmet can run a route and he can block. Gerald Everett, if he's out there, I don't think anybody's going to be overly concerned about whether or not he's going to block. So to me, I think just in its most simplistic way of saying, it's like, hey, the defense is going to have a tougher time knowing what you're about to run when you walk up to the line of scrimmage. And then, of course, having Velus Jones active and then he fumbles on a kickoff. Tyler Scott is not active. At one point, Keenan Allen gets banged up. And then you have the news drop of Rome Odunze getting banged up at the end of the game. You only have five wide receivers on your 53-man roster, and one of them was inactive, and the other one is Velus Jones, and he's not a wide receiver. So now it comes out today. Matt Eberflus says Rome Odunze has got to get an MRI. And that has scared everybody here in Bears Nation, because he got rolled up on that script, that little right toss to Velus Jones. And Velus kind of went crashing in. He picked up like 9 yards and then rolled up on the back of Rome Odunze's legs. Well, Jordan Schultz comes out, the Schultz report on Twitter, who does a really good job with insider information. And he's saying sources, the initial belief is that Bears rookie wide receiver Rome Odunze suffered a grade 1 knee sprain during Sunday's win over the Titans. Odunze will seek a second opinion, but this is the best case scenario for the talented wide receiver. And I know some people were a little nervous. It could have been worse than that. That's also just a sourced report. So we have to wait for official confirmation of all this stuff. But if it is indeed just a grade 1 knee sprain, somewhere, everybody's going to have different opinions on what that means, but essentially week to week, right, Corey?
Exactly. It'd be week to week. And I think this early on in the season, especially being that they have weapons at wide receiver, right? Obviously, Tyler Scott's going to have to get elevated if Rome Odunze can't play. But I think this is the situation where if Rome Odunze isn't close to 100%, I think you sit him, especially being so new, rookie year. You just don't want that to aggravate him the rest of the year. You want him to get nice and healthy for that. And, I think it's something that you just have to keep in mind, especially with a young guy and the grind of a season. You don't want him to go through the whole season with a nagging knee injury. So I would rather him heal up, maybe take a week off. If he's not close to 100%, let Tyler Scott go in there. He had a good preseason. Let him showcase what he can do. And you also have, obviously, what's the deal with Keenan Allen? What have they said about his?
Because when Eberflus was asked about it with Keenan Allen, he wasn't even asked about Rome Odunze. He said Keenan and DJ should be fine. It's Rome Odunze that we have to look at. And everybody was like, wait, what? Where did this come from? So it seems like Keenan should be fine for Sunday. But at the end of the day, he was hurt going in, at the end of the preseason. Then he pulls up lame with his heel, going on a deep route, in the second half. So a lot of different concerns going on, but let's hope Rome Odunze is for the best. Seems like Keenan Allen will play here on Sunday. We're going to take a quick break. When we get back to the other side, our guy from the NFL Network, Adam Rank, will be joining here on the show and get into the conversation. Corey, Adam's always down to have a good time here on a Victory Monday. So we'll have some fun with him and certainly have some more thoughts on the game itself. So, like I said, got to give a shout out to our guys at ComEd. It's getting easier for businesses to switch to electric vehicles. That's something that we can all get behind as I give this shout out here to ComEd. And so for the health of the planet and the well-being of all of us who share it, the electric grid is evolving to meet your cleaner energy needs as we all move with confidence towards an electric tomorrow. Whether you have one delivery van or a whole fleet of shipping trucks, ComEd can help guide you to make the changes that make sense. So go to comed.com/clean to learn more about the resources, fleet rebates, and infrastructure incentives available to help businesses go electric. If you own a business, don't wait. Start making your plan today to switch to electric vehicles. Good for business, good for the planet, good for all of us. Go to comed.com/clean and go now and see how going electric connects us to a better way of doing business and a better future for generations to come. Once again, go to comed.com/clean, powering us here on CHGO Bears After Dark. Also want to give a quick shout out here to our guys over at Joe's on Weed Street. We will be at Joe's on Weed Street. We were there for the draft party in April, and it was a lot of fun. Huge turnout. We're going to be there once again here, week 3, September 22nd for Bears Colts. Going to have giveaways. If you go to allchgo.com/events, you can get your tickets now. Live pregame show, live postgame show, live Briggs and Brown show. We're doing it all. We're doing it all there, and we're going to be watching the game along with you guys at Joe's on Weed Street. There's different ticket packages for you to sign up for with different food and beverage options. So it's going to be a lot of fun when we get over there. Cannot wait. And last time we were there was an absolutely lit atmosphere as the Bears drafted Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze with 2 top 10 picks. So that being said, our top pick for the night, joining the show once again, is our guy, Adam Rank from NFL Network on a Victory Monday. How we doing tonight, Adam?
Oh, I'm doing pretty well. You know, as you said, Victory Monday. I'm sitting here not making apologies for anything. I'm not making apologies for how many yards the quarterback had passing or anything like that. It's a game like a couple of years ago. Remember when we were when we were going for the number 1 overall pick, it was like we would win those games or we'd lose those games with Justin Fields where we'd score 30 points. And you'd be like, it's fun, but we're losing. But you know, we were on a different trajectory, building for something that we're at right now.
Right.
I kind of enjoy winning, and I'm gonna take the winning with any way that it comes and go with it that way. And so I make no apologies, guys. I'm excited. I feel pretty good. And like, I know that you tweeted this out, Greg, but like being the underdog this week also will probably help us out. So I'm stoked. I'm ready to go. How are you guys feeling?
I'm feeling good. A win is a win at the end of the day. I just thought the offense would do a little bit more out there, and I didn't think it was going to be perfect with Caleb and Braggs. You know this. I've been saying it's a work in progress. I don't expect them to light it up. It's just
it's my fault. The game week 1 is my fault. I talked all this smack, got way too ahead of my skis, and this is exactly what I get for writing checks that Caleb had to cash.
Yeah,
but what about like if Keenan Allen catches that ball in the end zone? Like, what is the conversation different, or are people still like, well, it's just 100 yards and a touchdown, or do people look at it a little bit differently?
I think people look at it differently because as a quarterback, you're judged by how many touchdowns you throw. And I just think, who knows, that could have reinvigorated him and his confidence. And especially, I always said, like, as a wide receiver and especially a talented guy like Keenan Allen, you got to help your quarterback out. He's got some of the surest hands in the league, and that was a routine. He threw it right on the money. You got to help your quarterback out, especially when he's struggling in that game. And it's just something that you don't see from Keenan Allen. I really do think if he would have caught that ball, I think it would have gave Caleb some confidence because on Hard Knocks, he said, I'm not nervous. You're not human if you weren't nervous in that game. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
All the hype building up to that game, Soldier Field was absolutely rocking. They were chanting his name. They were ready to go. When he took the field, I mean, it erupted. It sounded like a sonic boom. Like they were so excited. So for him to say that he doesn't get nervous, I don't believe that because looking at his body language and some of his throws, that's the typical response you get from somebody that's a little bit nervous in his first start. So I take that with a grain of salt. I think the win makes everything that much better. And the thing is, you can only go up from here. I think he has the talent. And the great part about that game is he didn't turn the ball over.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're right, because like before Will Levis threw the most unbelievable underhanded interception where he does the surrender cobra as the entire Bears defense runs the other way. you certainly could make the argument that Will Levis looked better than Caleb Williams, but then when you looked at the numbers, he still only finished with 126 yards passing. I know he had some big rushing first downs where he was able to get up the middle, and then he had the passing touchdown. But to your point, Caleb Williams did not turn the ball over. So, Will Levis might have found the end zone, but Caleb didn't turn it over. And at the end of the day, that was the biggest difference, because one of the quotes that came out from a Titans coach, I tweeted it a little bit or retweeted a little bit ago because it was just so funny. I can't remember exactly which coach said it, but
the head coach, when he said if we just punted on first down, we probably
he goes, head coach Brian Callahan, if we just punted on 1st and 10 every time, we might have won the game. So that just goes to show you. Well, tell that to
I think that's more damning of their quarterback. I mean, than anything about us. Like you're sitting there saying that your quarterback can't get it done. I mean, even worse than what we've got going on with Caleb Williams, or what is not going on. It's like you're sort of like, oh, we can't trust our own quarterback. I don't have a trust issue with Caleb Williams. Like, I'm not sitting here being like, oh God, this guy's going to end up killing us this year. I think he's got to play better, and I think he would admit that too. And we always talk about this when I come on about golfing and everything. Like, as sure as you are as a golfer, like if you were sitting there and we're playing in some sort of tournament and everybody's on the tee box watching you on the first tee, you're going to be a little nervous whether you're good or not, And I think Caleb got caught up a little bit in that, and I just feel like there's a couple of things. I was watching a lot of the former quarterbacks going down and breaking down film. I think it was Tim Jenkins who made the one where they were showing like how he froze a linebacker and then gets a dart to DJ Moore. And not to knock any quarterback who's played for the Bears over the last couple of years, like that, we don't see a lot of that in Chicago. So I think that there's stuff to grow on. Like he's going to have to get better, and he knows that. And I think that this is a huge opportunity. And I think too, like it sort of settles you down and grounds you once you feel like, oh, this is what an NFL game is like. And there's a reason why these guys, these rookie quarterbacks, the number 1 overall picks, have not played well since 1984, since John Elway won. I think John Elway was the last. No, Derek Carr or David Carr won in 2002. But I mean, like, I don't know. I think you just need to be grounded a little bit and just see like, okay, this is what it's going to take to win in this league. And then you go after it that way.
You're 100% right, Rank, when you go with because Woot, you know how this is. Like if you're playing by yourself and you try to pass through, a foursome that's playing, and they're like, okay. And then you got to step to the tee and show them why you're passing through. Like there's that moment where you're like, here we go. I got it's money on the table time. I better not embarrass myself here.
Except I think it's a little bit more nerve wracking in Caleb's situation than a golf round that there's nothing on.
It's quiet.
But like for the lay person, we don't know what it's like to walk in a Soldier Field with everybody rooting for us.
Yeah.
And as exciting as it was during the preseason game, like it's nothing like a regular season game. There's just no comparison for it. And in some respects, and I had thought about this too. I know a lot of people were saying before that when the schedule release came out, they were talking about like, well, at least we get the Titans. And like, not like the Titans are a joke, but it's not like we're playing the Packers in primetime or something like that, where it would have even been elevated. But at the same time, if we had opened on the road, it might have helped out a little bit. But we'll see. We'll see what happens when he gets down to Houston and how the team's going to react.
I compare this game to when we played in 2012, first game of the season, we played Andrew Luck, right? Yep. Caleb Williams was the best quarterback to come out since Andrew Luck, right? And in that game before the season, people were kind of iffy about our team because 2011 we finished, and they were worried how is our defense going to be? How is the offense going to be? So they really weren't believers in our team that year, 2012. So we come out against Andrew Luck. And our goal was to get after him, right? We pressured him. We hurried. He threw picks. We sack fumbled him. We wanted to get after him. And I think any defense, whenever you have a rookie quarterback, you're getting up for that because you're like, oh, this is the best guy to come out. Oh, we'll show him. Welcome to the NFL. And I think that's what you saw from the Titans. They were ready to go up front. I mean, they were getting after our offensive line. And obviously, right, the offensive line and quarterback position go hand in hand. So people can blame Caleb. That one play when he dropped back, the defensive tackle was in his face before he even turned around. So what are you going to do in that situation? They were constantly doing it. Shelton, the center, on the one sack, literally Jeffrey Simmons had 3 people on him with Shelton. Shelton's eyes are in there on him and literally makes a last-ditch effort to stick his hand out on the defensive end, comes home with a sack in that situation. So there was a lot of bad offensive line play. And what do you need to do as an offensive line? You need to protect your quarterback. And I'm hoping from week 1 to week 2, Shane Waldron, what is he known for? The 2 tight end sets, right? Really help your offensive line. Mercedes Lewis, basically another offensive tackle out there. Utilize him, right? Utilize him in some pass sets, right? Keep him in, help the offensive line out. Some chip help, things like that. So I'm hoping Shane Waldron can make those adjustments. I thought, the tackles did pretty good as far as pass rush. I thought they didn't do a good job in the run game. But Shane Waldron, how are you going to improve from week 1 to week 2, right? You got a young quarterback. How are you going to put him in a position to succeed? I think it starts with the running game, Swift and company. You got to get that run game going. You got to work the play action. That is a QB's best friend. So I'm hoping we see that from week 1 to week 2.
Well, and it did seem like
Darnell Wright had such a horrible miss on one of those run plays too, and you're just like, oh my gosh,
he whiffed.
And
ole.
So,
it did seem like they got their run game going to end the game. They just about sealed the deal at the end. It had a few nice runs where they almost sprung it with DeAndre Swift. So hopefully that's the positive momentum they need, because Corey, we were sitting there in the studio talking about it. Like, these guys just aren't calloused up like they used to be. Right. And you talked about how much you used to love playing in college, because those guys would kick your ass all summer long and have you ready for week 1, where it doesn't feel like this day and age NFL, these teams are truly ready. It was a lot of sloppy football here in week 1, which I certainly want to get to, but maybe expand upon that point, Corey, of how prepared teams were, back in your day, especially in the college days versus the NFL nowadays, where everybody's kind of treated a little more carefully going into the year.
Well, I think the collective bargaining agreement, what it did was give you less time on the field, right? Less off season. You can't do 2-a-days anymore. And I look back to when I was in college, I feel like I was in the best game shape of my life. I feel like I could play all day. I didn't need to come out, because what were we doing? We were doing double sessions. Sometimes we do triple sessions. We were primed and ready to go. And nowadays, everybody's like, less of this. I want fresh legs. And what do you see nowadays? You see a lot more injuries, right? A lot of Achilles, a lot of ACLs. And I think that has something to do with it. Not because guys are out of shape, but they're out of game shape, right? Because you're tired these first couple of weeks. Why do you think all the games early on are extremely sloppy? Because guys are not in great shape. Even the offensive linemen that don't come out in games, they're tired. They're winded, right? Yep. Defensive linemen across the board, secondary. You see guys that aren't in game shape. So then by week 6, 7, you see a better product on Sundays. You see better tackling. You see guys that don't seem as tired. So I think it's a gift and a curse. Guys have fresh legs, right? They'll make plays where they're super explosive. But I think what we're seeing early on is those guys are struggling to get in that game shape. And that's what we see. I think it's just guys just being tired early on.
Yeah. So
Adam, but there's also like a huge break between the third preseason game and just kicking off for the regular season. Like, there was essentially a bye week from everything. And a lot of those guys didn't even play in week 3 of the preseason. So we have players who didn't play for well over 2 weeks going out there trying to get sorted. And as I go back now, because I obviously spent the most time watching the Bears game, but going back and like watching some of those other games, you're like, geez, there's just some players who just weren't ready to go. And it's funny because, doing what I do, trying to figure it out from a fantasy perspective of like, who's just in shape and who's not in shape, and who are they trying to spell? Who are we overreacting on? Things like that. So yeah, I kind of get it. I think it's better for, players not to have it's a tough. It just hurts the problem. I would rather have less games and guys ready to go in week 1 as opposed to sometimes what we get.
Yeah, and one of the questions I certainly had, because I do want to get to some around the league talk. We're going to have this show be a little shorter because I know Corey's got, his Big Ten show that he's been debuting here the last couple weeks here with Joey Christopoulos. I know that's coming out here after this show is over. So we want to make sure everybody's ready to tune in for that. You guys have been doing a great job breaking it down here on the college landscape. But one question I did have for you, Adam, you do a show weekly with Tyler Scott. and he was inactive on Sunday, unfortunately. And then all of a sudden, Keenan Allen pulls up at one point, and you're like, wow, now all of a sudden they're kind of thin at wide receiver. I mean, they chose to only have 5 wide receivers on the 53-man roster, and one of those is Velus Jones, who's not really being used as a wide receiver anymore. You know, what kind of an opportunity can Tyler Scott create for himself here this Sunday with the potential that Rome Odunze may not play and Keenan Allen may not necessarily be 50%?
You know, we'll be having that conversation tomorrow with him, and I'm curious as to how it just comes out. Like, when do you know, like, I'm going to be inactive or anything like that? When is the game plan installed and all that stuff? But I've always told Tyler, you know, use this time as an opportunity to springboard yourself, and like having a player like Keenan Allen in the locker room and all that stuff will give you great knowledge, and you'll be able to mirror his work ethic and things like that. And when you get an opportunity to go out and shine, you got to make the most of it. And I think there's going to be a real chance here on prime time, you know, the bright lights of NBC and Chris Collinsworth and Mike Tirico and all those guys. And, you know, I've always told them, even, you know, I was with him the night that the Bears drafted Rome Odunze, and I'm like, listen, you can still play in this league. The NFL need receivers. Like, you're going to get your chances, and it's just a matter of stepping up. And the one thing that I know about Tyler is that he's got a great attitude. He's always looking to improve himself and to get better. And he's going to use this as an opportunity to springboard himself into the Bears' plans. That I hope this never comes out again. I hope we never see him as a healthy scratch again. And I was not, you know, I don't want to question the coaches. They're there. I'm not, and everything like that. But at the same time, I'm like, how do you not, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know how you feel. And I'm a Bayless guy too. But I'm like, how do we not have a spot for Tyler? Like, what are we doing here? Where are we going? Maybe it's because Blasengame's in. I don't know. I'm curious as to what the decision is and where they decided to keep people and not keep people. Are they in on special teams? Are they not in on special teams? So we're going to try to get to the bottom of that. I'm sure the coaches are working through it too. But I hope now, you know, this is his chance to shine, and I hope he makes the most of it.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. I think he's a game breaker. I think he's got elite level speed. I'm just hoping that, like, this really got him going. Like you said, like, when you're a healthy scratch, there's something about that. I've been that a bunch of times in my career, and it bothers you, right? Because you're like, I'm not good enough to make this active day roster. For whatever reason, they didn't think I was good enough to do it. So I think it's going to be motivation. And who knows, sometimes there's that one player that you didn't expect to have a huge role this year, or maybe that's his defining game. When his time is to step up, he does. Because I think that's what this league is. Because there's so many talented guys, but it's about capitalizing on your opportunity when your number's called. And I think he's going to be ready for that. So I'm looking forward to hopefully him playing, because if I'm the Bears and Rome Odunze, like we were talking about Braggs before Adam got on.
I heard this conversation when I was in the green room. Yeah.
Yeah. If he's not close to 100%, I'm not going to play him. I'm going to let him get healthy. You have Tyler Scott. That's a viable option that you felt good about, that had a good preseason. I'm going to rock with him until Rome is healthy.
Yeah, I don't want to mess with that. I don't want to get into a thing where we're chasing injuries and it just becomes an issue. You know, the 49ers have done that tonight with Christian McCaffrey, where they're like, okay, like and apparently the injury was more serious than we thought coming in. And they're like, okay, we have Super Bowl. We have aspirations for the Super Bowl. And while we can sit here and argue whether the Bears have Super Bowl aspirations or not, I do believe that there should be a solid aspiration of making the playoffs, competing for the division. And to do that, and with all our divisional games being so late in the season, I think we got to go through and be healthy for those. And I would rather take the time, and not that you want to lose to Houston or anything like that, but at the same time, you got to realize this is a road game against the defending AFC South champions. You want to win every game that you play, but at the same time, you got to understand the long play here. 4D chess, not checkers. Let's try to be smart about this and not try to rush anybody into a situation that they shouldn't be rushed back into.
Yeah, 100%. It's a victory Monday here on CHGO Bears After Dark. Still got the Hard Knocks thing. I just noticed this. I'm still in Hard Knocks mode, Corey. So we just now officially switched it. It's no longer a Hard Knock Life here on CHGO Bears After Dark, but I just got so used to that. It was so much fun covering the great show that HBO puts out every year, but I don't think we're going to be seeing Hard Knocks anymore. with the Chicago Bears. Want to give a shout out to everybody that came out for our tailgate. Adam, you're ever in Chicago, you got to make sure you hit up one of our tailgates. Nothing better than
where is this tailgate that you're setting up? Where is this spot?
This is at the corner of Wabash and Cermak with a group called the Chicago Bears Tailgating Club. So we are just one of 15 different tailgate operations going on in one lot. We all kind of band together, and we have our space. Other people have their space. And it's just a lot of fun. So if you go to allchgo.com/events, all of you can sign up and hang out with us at the tailgate. Adam, whenever you come out, you are always more than welcome. So I wanted to give a shout out to all of them because it was a great turnout, as it always is in week 1. And I'm expecting a nice turnout here in a few weeks here when we get all the way to week 4 and play the Rams. Puka Nacua will be out for that game, as it got announced today that he's been put on IR for 4 weeks. So he will miss that game. So we're hoping Rome Odunze will be available for that game, but the Bears won't see one of the best wide receivers in the league. Adam, I want to ask you because I'll start with you and then I'll go to Corey because, everybody's so busy on game day, right? And trying to look at what's going on the landscape around the league right now. You got the Jets and the Niners playing on Monday Night Football. But as we wrap this show up, what stood out to you as you looked around the league? It was interesting to see Sam Darnold and the Vikings beat the brakes off the Giants. The Lions come back and impose their will to win the game in overtime against the Rams. Seemed like the Rams just, completely blew that one at the end. So, for you, what stood out to you, not just in the division, but around the entire NFL?
Well, staying in the division, I'm extremely impressed with Dan Campbell. And the more that I watch him and I listen to him on his little hits before and after halftime and all that stuff, I'm like, I kind of like the guy. Like I can't really hate on him. Their fans are kind of annoying now because they're so good, and it's, they're really taking advantage of that. But I was really impressed with the way they battled through the Rams on that one. Like Sean McVay, as much as I love him and I think he's a great coach, it's like sometimes it feels like the Rams get pushed around a little bit, like a little bit more than they should have. It's sort of like the 80s when the Bears just sort of stiff-armed them on the way to the Super Bowl. They just kind of go through the Rams, and the Rams sort of have this thing of like being a little like, and it's been a thing for them forever, like just always being soft, like not soft. Like, listen, they're tougher than me, but like other NFL teams can kind of impose their will on them. And I don't know, I don't care that much, but I'm like, I was impressed by Detroit doing that. I think that Brian Flores is going to be a head coach in the NFL real soon. I mean, obviously it was against the Giants. We shouldn't get all too wrapped up about that. The Giants are a bad organization, but I was really impressed with the way that the Vikings went out there and handled their business. We see KOC going out there and kind of following in the same footprints as Kyle Shanahan and McVay and all those guys who come from the Mike Shanahan coaching tree, taking Sam Darnold, who I feel like has a lot of talent, can be a starter in this league, and getting the most out of him. He's not only like relying on Justin Jefferson, but Jalen Naylor goes out there and catches a touchdown. Aaron Jones. The funniest thing in the world to me is everybody just glazing Josh Jacobs this offseason, like, oh, what a great pickup. And I'm like, you know what? Like, I'd rather have Aaron Jones. If you're asking me, I would rather have Aaron Jones and and he goes to the Vikings, of course. So I was really impressed by them. And then the Packers, we'll see what happens. I don't want to talk too much about that because I'm glad that their quarterback's not hurt for the entirety of the season. But at the same time, I was really impressed with the Vikings and the Lions over the Sunday proceedings.
How about you, Corey? I mean, there were certainly some interesting games around the league. The Bengals falling to the Patriots caught my eye, but what caught yours?
I think the Colts and their quarterback situation with Anthony Richardson, that one throw off the back leg about 70 yards. Woo. I mean, Anthony Richardson is going to be a dude in this league. I mean, he reminds me a lot of a little bit more athletic Cam Newton. I think his arm is stronger. I think he has what it takes. He played strong in that game. I think it's going to take some time, but I really like what I saw from him last year, even before he got hurt. I think he's got all the talent in the world. I think he plays with a certain swagger. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do this year because I think he hasn't even scratched the surface of what he can do.
Yeah, when you talk about the Colts and the Texans playing each other, for me, I can't wait to go back and actually watch that game for myself. Bears week 2 and week 3 opponents. And then I think the Colts play the Packers here this upcoming week, right? So, there's a lot of, interlacing here with the division going on. And you're right, Anthony Richardson. I think Stephen Nicholas, our producer here at CHGO Bears, he said that the air yards on that touchdown throw were the most air yards on a touchdown throw. The only other two that were more than that were Hail Marys. And he threw that kind of falling backwards. His feet weren't even set. So that was certainly eye-opening, and that'll be certainly a test for the Bears here come week 3 as the Bears head to Indianapolis. Adam, before we cut you loose here, obviously you're always doing your thing, talking fantasy football on NFL Network and doing your thing. Any surprises for you? You got a couple guys that have kind of popped up on the radar that people should be looking out for here on the waiver wire here coming up tomorrow.
Well, I really like Jalen McMillan coming into this season and thought he played really well. Could have actually had a second touchdown. I think that Chris Godwin's going to eventually, I like Chris Godwin, but I think he's going to end up getting surpassed in that situation. Cooper Kupp reestablished himself even before Puka Nakua's injury kind of flared up. I thought Cooper Kupp was in for a resurgence. It was shocking to not see Amon-Ra St. Brown play as well as we thought he was going to do. But I think, honestly, J-Mo playing so well, now we're going to see a bunch of too high with them. So that's actually going to open it up. So everybody who's freaking out about Amon-Ra St. Brown, that offense, to have J-Mo there spreading out the defense is going to be huge for them. Isaiah Likely was great, but Mark Andrews still out-snapped him, still, got more targets and everything. I think Mark Andrews is going to be fine. Baker Mayfield is a man reborn. I think it's for real. I was curious as to what was going to happen with him and Dave Canales leaving to the Carolina Panthers. I really do believe that this is the best of Baker Mayfield. I think he's now a stud. I just think this is I'm happy for him. I'm glad it's working out for him in Tampa Bay, but I think they really got something. And what about the Panthers? So if the Panthers end up getting the first overall pick again, can we do the thing where we run around saying we essentially got a first round pick for this guy? if it's pick 33, essentially a first round pick, that we had to hear all that stuff. Oh, by the way, I could not have been more pleased than our guy Tyreek Stevenson going out there and getting that pick 6, because again, it's going to be, whether we want it to or not, it's going to be a Joey Porter versus Tyreek Stevenson thing moving forward through the end of time. And I was glad our guy Ty got that interception so we could be you know what? We wouldn't have even drafted Joey Porter Jr. I truly believe this. I don't think we would have drafted him. If we still had that pick, I think that we would have traded down and probably taken Tyreek Steve or done whatever. I think that's the guy that Ryan Poles liked, and he's playing pretty well. And the trade that we had with Seattle, all the people got a lot of wind in their jaw talking about that. Oh, I'm sorry, you got 2 sacks. I know that wasn't the quote. I know I reverted back to the but there was also some weird things too. I love Rashid Shaheed. I'm part of the Twitter group that loves Rashid Shaheed. We're the most irrational fans. Imagine the Bragg's meatball, but for Rashid Shaheed. I'm part of that group too. And he goes out there. He not only gets his long touchdown, which is what he does, but he gets the most targets on the team. He out-targets Chris Olave, which I don't expect to last. But I'm that was a good week 1. Drake London was Kyle Pitts got a touchdown, which is great. Drake London did nothing, which was unbelievable. I don't know. I don't know what to believe anymore in the world. And and I got to wear it on Tony Pollard against our own team. Oh gosh, I didn't want any part of that. But the Titans have a pretty good offensive line. I should have been smarter about Tony Pollard, although I still think Tajay Spears ends up winning out. Oh, and the Ravens. The Ravens are great too because they did. Oh, you know what? Denver. What was Denver doing? Seattle gave up the most rushing yards last year, and Denver comes out and goes, "Hey, Bo Nix, throw it 40 times." I'm what are you doing? Run Javonte Williams and Jaleel McLaughlin. Yeah. Go out and do that, please. I was so distraught. And then who was it? Was it Vele? Who was the guy and was getting all the targets? You're I don't even know what's going on in the world anymore. I love Sean Payton, but that was baffling.
So question for you, Adam. If Kirk Cousins, right, didn't have the best performance, let's say a couple weeks go by, still struggling.
Right?
Do you think they're going to be calling from the rooftops? Panics.
You're going to want to see it. Absolutely. Yeah, you're going to want to see it at some point. That was
And if you're the Falcons, what do you do at that point? I mean, because you drafted him high, you feel confident with him. Even with Kirk Cousins being there, you go with him, right? If Kirk Cousins continues to struggle.
If they're 0-3 and 0-4, and it looks like it could be one of those lost seasons, I think they might have to and just realize, like, well, we might be eating a lot of money, but you also drafted this quarterback to go out there and be the future of the franchise, even though he's 36 already and playing on his rookie deal. But no, yeah, I think so. I thought about that for a little bit. I'm like, oh, and we didn't even talk about Justin Fields. Like, Justin did his thing, and I think, again, every Bears fan should be rooting for him because we got a 4th-round pick riding on this thing. So that was good. I was that outside of Drake London not coming through for me fantasy-wise, I'm like, that worked out perfectly. Falcons lose, Steelers win. You have a reason to continue to have Justin Fields play. So there was a lot of cool things that were going on.
Yeah,
so with the Ravens, real quick, looking at that game, right? It was basically a rematch of last year's AFC Championship, and I thought they had a similar recipe. And I'm kind of scratching my head a little bit. You're looking at, on paper, one of the best rushing attacks with Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson.
Yeah,
still pass happy again, right? They should never be in games where they throw the ball more than they run the ball. You have a two-headed monster, right, with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. Run the football. I think when Lamar Jackson is doing best is when he's getting things going right. He was running the football effectively, but look at Derrick Henry. You brought him over here to give him the ball 13 times. Like, he should be your bell cow. He should be getting 20-plus touches at least.
No, I agree. They panicked. There was no other way to describe that. They just got away from their game plan almost immediately. Yeah. They got down by, 7 and acted like they were down by 21. Yeah. And I'm like, why are you throwing you can still control the clock. You have a good defense. You're the Ravens, for crying out loud. Just keep Derrick Henry out there grinding it out. And I know that, he's probably not at I still would have gone with him. Like, that's the reason why you have him.
Right.
Is to run the football.
He's built like a DN. If you saw him next to me, like, you'd be like, dang, is he play DN?
Oh, it's wild.
Yeah.
It's like the first time you ever walked into the NFL. Yeah. It's crazy. The first time he walked into the NFL Network studios, and you see people walking through all the time, I was behind him, and I'm like, who's this offensive lineman who's in right now? Like, oh, it's Derrick Henry today. You're like, good Lord. Like, there's guys that you look at, and you're just like, I can't imagine a human being having to step in front of him at full speed and try to tackle him. Like, I just can't imagine it.
Well, that's like, when I'm standing next to Woot, that's kind of what it's like,
Right.
I forgot how short Braggs was. I saw him for the first time in a while.
I'm 5'11" and a half. I'm like 6 foot.
Wait, I was gonna say, we're like the same height. I don't like the way I don't like where this is going.
I'm 5'11" and a half. All right.
I like it when I'm standing next to Andrew Hawkins or MJD, even Steve Smith.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, funny story. One time, because Steve Smith is shorter than me. And then one time we were doing something for GMFB weekend. It was at the Super Bowl in Minneapolis, and we were on the field, and they're like, hey, go run a route. And you're like, okay. And then I was not allowed to run a route because Steve Smith just stuck his hand out. And you're just like, professional athletes, just a little bit different. Like, I'm like, I don't know. I didn't want to fight back too much, because I'm clumsy. I'm like, I don't want to inadvertently do something to injure Steve, like a toddler does to me. You know what I'm saying? Like how your kids are just all gangly and then they end up hurting you. I didn't want to do that, but I was just like, good Lord, the difference of these people, the human being. And then to think of Derrick Henry is also this way, but he's 6'5". It's unbelievable. Just like bumping into MJD, you're like, it just doesn't seem human sometimes. It's just wild.
That's what Alex Brown was saying. He's like, man, Woot, he's like, hey, I forgot how big you are. People forget because when they're around me, like Braggs, He's over there looking
Yeah.
like
We
a
will
shrimp
look
over
like
there.
shrimps. No, I get it. I figured as much. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I like to give him a hard time, you know.
Always.
I got to keep him
always.
grounded because, you know, now that he's in the media, I don't want his head to get
he
too
is,
big.
you know what? And he talks a big game on these streams, but then when we're in studios, he's like, Braggs, you all right? Your knee okay? How you feeling? He's like being all nice to me.
Don't blow him up. Don't blow up the
I was checking
kayfabe.
on you.
Don't blow up the kayfabe. Like, you got to keep this going. Don't let me know. We don't want to know. That's not what we're doing. Like, you got to stay in.
Listen, I slapped it and I was like, yeah, it's good. Rub some dirt on it.
Right? These are the lessons I always have to give Braggs. Like, when we're doing stuff, is like, hey, like, don't blow up kayfabe on the air. Like, yeah, he's teasing you. You like lean into that. He loves you behind the scenes, but you can go ahead and play it out. Don't be like Michael Kay and John Sterling or whomever it was on the Yankees broadcast yesterday.
Yeah. Well, we all know I'm a work in progress, but yeah, it was funny in the studio. We had the videos of some of the reactions of the plays, and you can tell like people are like wanting to shove me, and I'm like, don't hurt me. I can't move right now. So it was a fun win, and this has been a fun show. And Adam, we're gonna cut you loose before we put a bow on this show. So
you're cutting me loose?
Yeah, I'm gonna cut you loose here. So we close the door on this thing. So make sure you check out Adam Rank on the NFL Network, doing his fantasy football live gig all day long, helping you out, winning your fantasy league, helping you win your money. You know, that's what we're all trying to do is for pride and money for fantasy football all day long. And I know if you're in a league full of sharks, it can be hard on them waiver wire orders.
Oh, you want to know what happened tonight? So this is a thing I do. I do this every week. So I always go in through my rosters and I see if I have any holes and like guys who are just not going to work out. And like I had like Blake Corum or like Kamani Vidal on a couple of teams. I'm like, okay, I don't need them right now. So I go look at the Monday night games and see who's available. And like Mike Williams was available. And so I went into a league and I picked up Mike Williams. And as I was doing it, I got the notification that Christian McCaffrey was out. So I switched it to Jordan Mason. And this is in my league with all my buddies who have grown up with me and all this stuff. And the guy who has CMC was so pissed. And he's like, how dare you? That's so uncool. And I'm like, listen, I go, actually, Jordan Mason is now the second best running back on my roster because Zamir White was terrible in week 1. So, yeah, got to be a shark sometimes. You got to go out there and be ahead of the game.
Got to be a shark. And that's what Adam Rank is on Fantasy Football Live on NFL Network. And, of course, the Sick Podcast. And I'm always enjoying jumping on with you. So we'll be looking out for the next one here. I'm like losing my mind here, just trying to.
What are we doing? Wednesday? We'll probably do Wednesday again. I think that worked out pretty well.
You hit me up whenever you want. You know I'm ready for it. Always appreciate hanging out with you, Adam, and appreciate you coming on here tonight. So we'll talk to you here real soon, and enjoy the rest of the week. Victory week. It would have been a lot harder to get through it if the Bears had lost, but found a way to win a football game. Now let's see if we can be the underdogs and steal one on the road in Houston. So we'll catch up here real soon.
Appreciate it, Adam.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
That is Adam Rank of NFL Network. Always
awesome having him on there, man.
Yeah, he's energy all day, and we always love the energy he brings here on CHGO Bears After Dark. Huge supporter of what we do, and it means a lot to us greatly.
So learn a thing or two from him because your energy today is low, dude. You're tired.
I am so tired. You're right. Yeah. You're 100% right. I'm gassed, dude. I am gassed. Yesterday was a marathon. And I had
to need some caffeine. Today. I don't need caffeine. I'm naturally juiced. I woke up.
I am. Thank you very much. I had physical therapy today, a lot of stuff. So I promised Jake we'd finish the show under an hour. So we're at the 54-minute mark. Yeah. I even told him we were going to do 45 minutes because I said,
can I get 1 minute just about the game?
You get 1 minute, but you also have a super chat. So fire away, Corey.
Okay. Yeah. So this week, right, against Houston, I am most worried about the defense this week. I'm going to tell you why. Because of the weapons, right? CJ Stroud at quarterback, what he was able to do. I know in the first game, right, his performance didn't woo or wow you, but he was efficient, got the ball in the end zone. But, you know, I'm looking at the weapons at receiver, right? Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs, right? Joe Mixon at running back really went off on him. So this is a great test for the defense. Playing on the road, right? back against the wall. You're the underdog. How are they going to perform? Because they carried the team on Sunday. How are they going to carry this team again, especially with the young quarterback figuring things out? This offense is a work in progress. I think we realize that. Yep. How is the defense going to step up big and perform against a pretty talented offense? I think Jalen Johnson and company, Kyler Gordon, Tyreek Stevenson, how good are they? How talented are they compared to some of the best in the league? Because when you look at the trios around the league, you could look at Houston and say they have, besides the Bears, one of the top wide receiver trios.
Yep. Dr. Truth in chat says Mixon was a beast on Sunday and Collins looked really, really good. Woot is right. Woot is always right. We appreciate everybody tuning in here tonight. We do have a super chat here that we got to get into real quick. We got 3 minutes. So you get 2 minutes to answer Joseph Hallman, $4.99 super chat. My main concern is how the O-line was dominated. Was that a talent mismatch or a lack of physical and mental preparation or coaching?
So I think it was definitely a mismatch, especially Simmons inside. I mean, he's a monster over there. But I do think because of the limited preseason, I just think they were not ready to go. I don't think they were prepared. I don't. I think all the above. I just don't think they were prepared and ready to go in this game. They were flat offensively. I think the defense started a lot stronger. They were ready to go, but I think just offensively as a whole, they came out flat.
Yep. Yeah, they certainly did. And let's hope now that they got a little bit in gear and found a way to win a game. And now they can look at the tape. They've got tape on the Texans. They can come in a little more prepared. Week 1 can always be a little crazy for that. So that wraps things up here tonight. Want to thank once again Adam Rank for tuning in. Thank you to all of you here in the chat. Make sure you hit the like button on your way out. Hit up ALLCITY. Hit up our store here at ALLCITY. We've got the Claws Up shirt. If you want to hit that up, if you become a diehard, you get that shirt for free and a whole bunch of other great stuff that comes with it. So, yeah, man. Hey, we'll get back to it. We got the Texans coming up. Got some big guests here lined up as the week goes on. Brian Baldinger will be in on his usual Wednesday slot.
Ooh, big Baldy.
We'll hear the update on Roma Dunze here tomorrow, probably from the Bears and Matt Eberflus. So things to get to, a lot to talk about, and we'll be here every single day to talk about it with you. So Corey Wootton, thank you as always for your insights and your energy and your friendship, even though you like to pick on me.
Friendship? What kind of
we're friends. And I tell everybody that I see, I walk up to them like, hey, Corey Wootton, me and him, good friends. So that's the burden you bear now. I took a picture with you yesterday. Look at I'm gonna go around.
Wow, just pause that for a second. Look at the size between me and Braggs. Wow, Carm actually looks more. His arms look bigger than
he's got a spray. He's spray tanning. He's spray tanning. So, all right, that wraps things up. We'll roast the guys later on, but thank you again, Corey. Make sure you check out the All Big Ten podcast with Corey and Joey Christopoulos. They're doing a great job. So, with that being said, see you tomorrow, 12 p.m. Central. CHGO Bears going to be on, holding it down. Adam Hogue, Mark Carmen, and myself in studio. We'll see you then, and always bear down.
We all silly like the mayor.